All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of From the Ground Up. Now, we have a guest on our show today. This guest was on a recent episode along with Easy, but this time we got him on the solo dolo sitting down. We're going to get into some stuff about his career, his accomplishment, what he got going on right now. He's a part of our Illinois Legends series here. So welcome back to the show, Mr. DY himself. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me again.
Indeed. Thank you so much for coming on. So now let's dive right in without further ado. Let's start with, I guess, where the beginning of your basketball journey begins. Like, what started you off? I know, like I said, last episode that we had, we talked about having famous family and things of that nature. But personally, for you, when did your basketball journey begin?
I think mine started really early. I would probably say around the ages between 3 and 4. I think honestly, like you said, I come from a basketball family, so that probably was the initial push. But then I think honestly, when I first like started watching the game, watching Laker games, I think my father's a huge Laker fan, so I think I was floated down that road already. So I became a
Mhm.
huge Laker fan. And I think once I kind of got the idea of Kobe Bryant, like who he was, and can
Mhm.
understand all that, I think that's when I kind of really dove fully into basketball.
Absolutely. So when did basketball begin to get serious for you? Like, when was it something where you were like, okay, I think I want to pursue this just beyond just playing it for fun or playing with my friends? Like, when did it get competitive for you?
Um, I think for me, probably fifth grade.
Okay.
I think when I came into middle school, the competition was a lot higher, and
Hmm.
basketball at that time, a lot more guys were taking it serious. I think I
Hmm.
played for like travel team at that age or the year
Hmm.
before,
Hmm.
and yeah, so I think fifth grade. Yeah, fifth grade probably was the year where I think, okay, this is like me. This is what I do.
Hmm.
I'm a basketball player.
Absolutely. So I wanted to ask you something too, because just being that I got to see your game from middle school until high school, and beyond that point, you were always kind of an interesting specimen to me just because you were playing a position kind of like that between that forward guard position, but you were playing it in a way that is popular now, but wasn't that popular then. Is that something that you did intentionally? Is that something maybe your father instilled in you, or you just kind of had a natural knack for having that, that strong force field, but also being able to have a soft touch around the rim and, 15 footer, et cetera, et cetera?
I think it was just a natural act. I don't remember honestly anybody, or especially from just myself, just to think, okay, to export this part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't have anybody to tell me that or anything. But I think like I said before, kind of having a idolizing a specific player at an early age, and with that
Right.
being Kobe Bryant, that was kind of his main thing was the mid-range game and having great footwork and just working around. And then I think since I was put in positions where I was kind of put at the four sometimes, had smaller defenders guarding me, I used that to help me around the rim.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that was probably it, just watching him and then just kind of having a natural knack.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that because a lot of people don't do that mid-range
Yeah,
game,
yeah,
especially like,
yeah, honestly, and like I said, just at the time that you were doing it, it wasn't as like now. Obviously, it's more prevalent, especially like in the high school and college and the NBA. Like everybody at that position is going back and forth between power forward and guard. Like there's no really traditional power forward
right,
anymore. But like I
right.
said, you were kind of doing it at a time where it wasn't as prevalent. So I always thought that was interesting because you being so young to be like, hey, I have this other part of my game that I'm just going to unlock and allow it to be a part of like my basketball makeup in a sense. I wanted to ask you too. Like I know you said in middle school was kind of the kickoff starting point for you when it started to get serious. Were you ever like looking around the city and maybe at your competition, like I need to be at this level or I have to compete with this person so I have my name in those conversations, or did you kind of just lock in and focus on yourself?
No, for sure. And I think that's like, honestly, and I think any basketball player to tell you that they don't look at a specific player or, your certain talent level. Like,
Mhm.
I think they're not telling the truth because that's kind of your motivator. So for me, for sure, I definitely had certain players and certain parts of my life that I locked in on, and like you said, it was certain level of talent. And as you know, you're from Peoria, so our basketball talent, especially at that time, was at a very high level. So, like I said before, me knowing at an early age that I was like, I'm a ball player, I'm all in. I knew that okay, in order to get this level of respect, to get to where I wanted to be, I needed to, get to that certain level and get to certain guys, or at least, be able to put my name in a conversation with them.
Absolutely. And I think that's great just because, like you said, at that time, the level of talent was so stout. And so, like, there were so many players that had great potential, or just, you guys were trying to knock each other's heads off every game, essentially, because it was just that competitive. Now,
Right.
going from middle school to high school, you ended up coming to Central, which, we went to Central together. When you get to Central as a freshman, having had a great middle school career, what's the mindset like now? Because that's when basketball gets serious for real when you get to high school, because that's when colleges come into play. That's when AAU starts to matter even more than just like, it's not for play anymore. It's either you're here to really compete or you're not. So what's the mindset as a freshman coming in with all the talent that we already had? Like, where's your mind frame at?
At that time, so coming as a freshman, I'm not gonna lie, my mind honestly was all over the place just because
Okay.
I kind of had a crazy story coming into Central. So for those that don't know, just off subject real fast, I
Go.
graduated in my 8th grade from Illini Bluffs, not Rolling Acres.
Mm-hmm.
I was living with my father. We moved out to Bartonville, Mapleton,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Camelot, and I
Mm-hmm.
finished middle school in Illini Bluffs. So
Mm-hmm.
initially, I was going to go to high school out there. Then I
Mm-hmm.
made a late move in the middle of the summer, late summer, back to my mother's, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when I came and enrolled into Central. So
For you,
I
20, real quick, not to cut you off. What made you, is that something, that a decision that you made where you were like, I need to go play at Central and compete with everybody else? Or like, how did that situation come to be?
I'm glad you asked that because that is something that has been like, that's the thing that me and my family talk about a lot. So at the time, at the time,
Mm-hmm.
um, two reasons, honestly, I can admit. So being that young, so what are you in 8th grade? I'm 14,
Mm-hmm.
I'm really
Yeah.
young. Obviously battling the households of two parents,
Mm-hmm.
that also battles two lifestyles. So I have friends in a certain area and friends in here. So, me being from Peoria, I
Mm-hmm.
was I had majority of my friend group and, I'll say
Mm-hmm.
kicking life I felt in Peoria. So that was a big thing to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna lie, I definitely thought at that time my game needed the Peoria Central grind
Mm-hmm.
mentality to keep me going to where I thought I would needed to go. I thought I had the talent, but I thought I was kind of losing the toughness. And then again, like, now that I'm a grown man and been through it all, I do look at that kind of thing, okay, not saying that it wasn't the right decision, but that, I felt like I could have made it work either way,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, at that time, I definitely thought I needed that
Mm-hmm.
extra umph from like the Peoria game. Yeah.
And that's interesting because we all often, like, just off camera, just talking to different people, like, we all that have gone to Central, we all talk about that grind because we all had tough coaches. We all had coaches that would yell at you, cuss you out, get on you, grab you, be aggressive. We had our MTXE, the famous mental toughness, extra effort. So, like,
Sure, sure.
talk about what that grind is like, because I don't think a lot of people really understand. Like, going to Central is like, we always talk about that's the best high school, just laughing it off kind
Right,
of. But
right, right, right.
there is a extra gear or an extra grind that you have to kind of have to survive in those trenches, if you will. So talk about kind of that extra gear and that mental toughness that you have to have.
Um, well, first of all, I think it shows for itself that people that's from Peoria already know. Because, not to throw shots at anybody and, different things, different people left for different reasons, but a lot of people didn't last at Central on the
Mm-hmm.
note that it's a very tough place to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Let alone physically, as far as like what we do as far as workouts,
Mm-hmm.
basketball, etc., all the way down to mental, so
Mm-hmm.
to run down, so for the men's, we were one of the schools that you couldn't have hair.
Mm-hmm.
You wear the
Mm-hmm.
shirt and tie every game day.
Yes.
You couldn't wear jewelry like honestly, any time during the school year, especially during basketball. I think they were a little more lenient. Coach was a little more lean during non-season, but especially during the season. And then
Mhm.
even to make matters worse, we couldn't have facial hair. So
Mhm.
that was something that like everything else, me personally, I could kind of get past and like, okay, whatever, it's not that big deal to me. But the facial hair was kind of tough just because, as a young man, you working hard to grow that. I used to
Yeah.
argue with Coach Ruff all the time, like, Coach, hey, if I got facial hair at 16, I guess that's what a 16-year-old supposed to look like. And he like, nope, cut it, get rid of it, you ain't playing. So yeah, so like it was tough, it was a
Mhm.
mental thing to be able to get through all that, let alone the physical part. Rough have you out there. We had our, her 2 days where you wake up early in the morning and you run in
Mhm.
from Central down Bradley all the
Man.
way to Nebraska and back, and then they expect you to come play an open gym against the Central alumni with the AJs and Lil Ruffs and
Mhm.
Stellas, and so yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. But at the same time, it was all mental, and I think
Mhm.
that was his end game with it all.
Mhm.
Especially now, like I said, now that I'm grown and have went through it, like I thank him for that. So
Yeah.
it
Like
was a
people,
tough
yeah,
one.
like I said, yeah, people don't know about running those routes, those hills, man. That's
Oh
a
man,
different type of time. Those
man.
Saturday practices, those open gyms, um, like you said, all that, I like all that stuff. Like it was tough. So I'm definitely glad that you highlighted that because that is a separation of us from everybody else. I don't know how everybody else did it at their high school,
Right,
but I know
right.
for us, like you guys had the no facial hair, no, you can grow your hair out, the no jewelry, like, and people don't understand like for Central basketball was year round. Like just because the season wasn't in, didn't mean you didn't have open gym. It didn't mean that coach wouldn't text us in the group chat or call us and say, hey, I want to schedule a practice, or that
Right.
you weren't playing in summer leagues on top of playing AAU, on top of playing all these different things. So yeah, that basketball was a year round thing for us. So freshman year, like when you look back on it, how do you think that team fared? Because if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of went back and forth between JV and varsity a little bit, just because of your stature and the way that you work. So, what was that grind like?
So freshman year, honestly, probably was the toughest year. Like you said, with that being said, I played all three. So
Oh,
those that don't
okay.
know, there's a freshman team, and I played on that. I played that freshman team. So a lot of times when like a freshman kind of dresses varsity, plays varsity, they don't even see the freshman team. No,
Mm-hmm.
I played all three. So
Mm.
I played. I don't think I missed. So I remember, like, especially the first half of the year, I played all three, like freshman games, practice, sophomore games, starting practice, and then I practiced with the varsity. I didn't play a lot. I was obviously behind, the DJs and the rows, watching, looking up to them, trying to learn how that varsity game went.
Absolutely.
And even watching like my former freshman player, Travis, who started at that time, watching him,
Mm-hmm.
just how physical that game was, and just trying to get ready for that. But
Mm-hmm.
it was tough, man. I went from fresh varsity will always practice first, and
Mm-hmm.
then sophomores and freshmen will come in at the same time. Sometimes they will practice together, and sometimes they wouldn't. And then if
Mm-hmm.
they didn't, back and forth, and if they did, then obviously it's all one. But
Right.
it's tough. And just a quick story for him. My mom tells the story a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I remember when we had a shootout. I can't remember exactly. I want to say we played TF North up in Chicago, but it was a
Mm-hmm.
shootout. It was at Central,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody played. I think you
Mm-hmm.
remember this.
Yeah.
Varsity boys played, varsity girls played. Sophomore boys
Yes.
played,
Yes.
sophomore
Yes.
girls. Freshman
I
boys,
do
freshman girls.
I do
And
remember
I
that.
had to play all three,
Yep.
and it was the most tired. Like I'm the tiredest I've ever been in my life. The longest day ever. I
Mm.
remember my mom and sisters were there all day, and I remember my mom like bought me Chinese, and I sat down after I believe sophomore game or freshman game that I actually played full minutes, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and then Coach Ron is calling me to come get dressed for the varsity game because I didn't think that was. I thought that was the one game I wasn't gonna dress, and sure enough,
Yeah.
I did, and I even played a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was tough. It was really tough, but I mean, hey, it kept me in shape. I got a lot of experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was rough.
Yeah. I could only imagine because I do. Now that you say that, I do remember that shootout in Chicago because I remember we played there as well. And yeah, I do remember that because I'm like, man, like I remember like he played all three, and I mean we had players on our team that kind of did the same thing too, but like our freshman team, and then we had like the JV and the varsity and such things of that nature. I think Siobhan actually was like one of the
Yeah.
ones that would kind of like go back and forth between all three. Honestly, the same thing. She would just be dog tired, but I mean, she had a different year, and I believe that you had that different year as well. Now, moving on a little bit, just in your high school career, where you're not the new kid on the block anymore, you're not a freshman. Now that there's a bigger responsibility on you because now you have a bigger role, you've proven yourself enough. What's the mentality now? Like, how does that switch from being just a part of the team to being a pivotal point in the team itself?
And I think from sophomore year all the way until I left Central, it was all then to be, the best player I could be individually, and then to see as
Mm-hmm.
far how far our team could go team wise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like you said, carrying a bigger role, bigger responsibility, just made it that much, funner, harder, etc. So yeah, just those two things, honestly, for me, just was, obviously individually, I wanted to be as best as I can, mark my
Mm-hmm.
name and get my legacy out there. But obviously, as far as going to Central, I definitely
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be part of one of those historic teams, with that could win it all or make the long run or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
came. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, and that's I definitely feel you on that, but like, because I always feel like it's different from going from being the hunter to the hunted. And I feel like when you're in that freshman position, you're the hunter because you're just trying to figure everything out. You want to get as much as you possibly can because you're trying to, like you said, you're trying to prove yourself at your name and stone. But then when you are the guy, it's like you said, people are coming at you every single night. So being at that time, who would you say was like your toughest matchup where you was like, okay, I'm always locked in, but I gotta really lock in for this person because this could be a potential, like if I win this matchup, like I'm the man for the next, for whatever this
Right.
next time again.
I mean, obviously, like Peoria is small, so everybody. If not, you
Yeah.
related to them.
No,
I mean,
real
the
tough.
main one, obviously, probably for me would be probably my brother, just because we got a year apart, both stars for the two rival teams of the city, state, Peoria Central, Peoria Manual, and at that time, I know, especially my senior year when we played them, I think that was like if not the biggest story in the city. Central versus Manual, brother versus brother. So I think him every night I played Manual when he was the man was like, okay. Let alone you got bragging rights for Central Manual, but then you got family bragging rights.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's
Right.
huge.
Yeah.
Other people just as far as just like talent in the city, you got the Trey Dorseys, the Andrew Jordans, them my guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up and we all on the same trauma team. So summertime, that's the talk. Oh, my team killed your
Yeah.
team, but I killed you, or you killed. How it goes. So you want to win those matchups and play extra good in those games because you got those people with those with those relationships. So like
Mm-hmm.
even when Manual was playing my brother, I got the
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Watson, who also was on my travel team and also was one of my best friends and a great friend of mine. And so playing him, we played two different positions, but I still want to win that game and play really good. So I have the bragging rights on him.
Mm-hmm.
Rituals, I got Tyler Dale's my cousin. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
and at the time, they were the team to beat.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play really good in that game. The Notre Dame teams my senior year, when they're undefeated all conference, and you want to play great and play good in those games against the Maxes, stuff like that. So so at that time when, like you said, being the hunter, being the hunted, when you kind of get a name for yourself, those are
Mm-hmm.
the type for me. Those are the teams and guys that I really wanted to play really well against.
Right, and I want to dive in a little bit because you mentioned it because you did play in the biggest rivalry in the city. Like all that other stuff is cool, the
Yeah,
Woodruff,
right.
the Rituals, but the Central Manual game, like that's when you wear your best outfit. You got to have the hair on point. You got to have the shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like
Everything, everything.
everything. It didn't matter
You,
what sport we played them in, what your record was at the time. Like that was the marquee matchup of the city every single time those two teams went head to head. So I mean, I know what it was like for me, but what was it like for you as the boy? Because I mean, the girls we had a rivalry, I guess, too, like that, just because it's Central Manual. But I don't think it was as intense as you guys, because it's the men, like you said, y'all got fathers and cousins and brothers and all, you know what I'm saying, all these things to factor in. what is that like? Like, what's that Friday night or Friday day, I should say, leading up to that game? Because you
Oh,
know what the time of the city is gonna be like. You know how live it's gonna be. What is that? What's that build up like?
uh, honestly, you can't focus. That's all you're thinking about. I mean, I remember them Friday mornings. I wait. First of all, that Thursday night going to bed, I'm
Yep.
already all antsy and I'm picking out my clothes. Like you said, I got my haircut probably that Wednesday or Thursday morning before school early, just so I can keep it fresh and it's it's crisp for the game. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just excitement, man. Like you just so like you super thirsty and just geeked
Mm-hmm.
for it. Or like you said, especially when like you kind of one of them ones. You got people in the
Yeah.
city come out looking for you. You already topics. You getting on social media, seeing people, whatever was popular at the time, Facebook, MySpace, whatever was
All
popular at the time,
that.
social media. Yeah, they all on there talking about it. And then
Yeah.
so it's just crazy. Like I just know like lunch. Like I know for me, I was not paying attention in any classes that Friday. If I played manual that Friday, I didn't pay attention to nothing. I didn't gain no knowledge of class that day because I was only focused on that. I couldn't wait. I could barely eat because I'm waiting for this game.
Yeah.
But and then it's crazy because now what I'm saying, now I got a little experience. Okay, you probably want to do opposite. You need to chill, relax. But you so you're so amped. Like you hear about it. This what you ready for. It's what you do.
Especially coming from your bloodline that, what I'm saying, like you can't, like I can only imagine what that had to been like for you. Just like I said, coming from that bloodline that you come from, then being one of the stars on the team, having a brother that plays on the opposite team, the rival team, if you will, and then just the pressure, the hype, just the everything. So now we're past the day now, and you actually are in that game. I always want to get into like I'm big on mindsets because I feel like that's so important. It's just as important as far as the physical part. Is it one of those things where you just kind of let your game speak for itself? Are you more of a thinker in those moments, like where you like, okay, I'm gonna plan out, I'm gonna do this move or this particular thing? Like, kind of, what's your mindset in the flow of the game? I guess I should say.
Are we talking the Man Central game, right?
Yeah, man.
Okay. Yep. Honestly, like I'm not gonna lie, like me personally, I probably was thinking a lot just because it was such a huge game and like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of nerves going and
Mm-hmm.
it's excitement, all of that in one. So I mean, I don't think I was thinking to the far line as like, what move I'm gonna do next here and there, but I definitely was thinking, okay, like, like I can't let this happen.
Mm-hmm.
I may not get away with this here in this type of game. I need to tighten up, but stuff like that. So I definitely feel like I was more on my P's and Q's during the Man Central game, than more free.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with that being said, I think that's like, I don't think that's a bad thing, especially for like me personally. I kind of thought that helped me a lot more because it was like, I was more focused. Like you said, that was the biggest game. That's the game. So if out of everything, I did, I want to play perfect. So,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
that doesn't happen, but I'm shooting
Mm-hmm.
for perfection. So
Right.
I'm thinking about every detail of the game.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, outside of that, um, when did what was the moment, I guess, that you started to kind of get on the college's radar? Because I know you went to college, you got a scholarship for basketball and things of that nature, but like, when was the point where like college coaches started to reach out? And then I guess what was that pressure like after? Now I know I got people coming to see me that could, potentially have an effect on my future and how my career goes from here.
You said when or what? Oh, I'm
When,
sorry.
like, when did
Um,
it kind of kick in? Like, when did they college coaches started to like actively seek you out?
I want to say probably the summer going into my junior year. I think that's when I had played travel ball
Mm-hmm.
already up till then, but I
Mm-hmm.
think our team was getting more like global recognition at the time, and especially
Mm-hmm.
coming from Central, even though it's not, it's Illinois, but Central is a big school. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's throughout of
Yeah.
our country, so they know who we are. So I think once our AU team, kind of got more recognition, and then
Mm-hmm.
I got better too as a player.
Mm-hmm.
I think AU kind of was my star. I had a couple good turns
Mm-hmm.
for that summer,
Mm-hmm.
and then and I think that's how it goes. You go to AAU,
Mm-hmm.
your name, they find out what high school, what school you go to, then that's when the recruiting really begins, you know.
Mhm.
And so I think I came to Central my junior year, which I think I had a really good junior year.
Mhm.
And I think that's what I kind of, when colleges really start reaching out or locking onto me, was
Mhm.
that junior year, that summer coming in and that junior season. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think that.
Absolutely. So, like, now from transitioning from that, like, like I said, people are starting to actively seek you out. So then, how does that change mentally for you? Because it's like now, this is my future here. Like, I'm not. It's not just freshman sophomore year. Obviously, you want to play well and things of that nature. You want to make impressions, but it starts to really lock in and get serious as far as on the college tip around that. Like you said, junior and senior season. And so now, what does the mindset go from there? You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, you're on college radars now, so it's completely different than what it was like before. So how does that change your mentality, or does it?
I mean, it definitely does. And like I said, anybody that says anything, I don't think it's either went through or
Mm-hmm.
telling the truth. Um, and at the end of the day, like this is your career, And I say that in the most non-selfish way ever. But at the end of the day, it is your career and your life. So I do think once that started going on with me when college recruits and coaches was reaching out to me, I think
Mm-hmm.
I definitely kind of got more on like a individual thing and not saying as I like, I went out there to play for myself because I did not. But I definitely started taking more, account of what helped me more,
Mm-hmm.
as far as in outside of basketball,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like on the off the court, But it's definitely more of a personal thought process once that really go. When that's really a thing, okay, I really have a chance to go play
Mm-hmm.
college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously winning helps. Winning is always going to
Yeah.
solve anything. But with that being said, you have to perform. So I definitely, like I said, I definitely think it becomes a little more personal of a thought process at that point.
Absolutely. Now, you were you on that championship team? The 20 was that
that was 2012. I was the year before. I graduated 2011.
Okay, so but you were a part of I guess the setup for that championship team because that was like the building block because you guys were right there. Like I remember you
Yeah.
guys
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
going to the tournament, things like that. So describe that like tournament play, going through the whole tournament process when we hadn't been there for at least been that far for since the Sean Livingston days, essentially. Like talk to me about what's that like and kind of putting Central back on the map as a more for people to take us more serious in our boys basketball at that particular time.
It was first of all, it was a real great, I'm honored to be part of that growth that, the next year that they was able to take it all the way home. But
Mm-hmm.
it was a long process, especially like even for me, like my freshman year all the way up leading up to that senior year was, just growing battles and
Mm-hmm.
it was just growing pains. My freshman year, I think we actually had a really good year. I think we made it to the sectional first game and lost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think we lost to Washington, who ended up getting fourth in state that year. Sophomore year was a pretty down year because we lost a lot of upperclassmen, and then we really were led by. I was on the sophomore. We were led by me, a freshman Bobo, a sophomore Travis, Tony Banks.
Mm-hmm.
So we were really young, but the second half of that year we really clicked and found our
Mm-hmm.
identity,
Mm-hmm.
leading all the way into junior year, which we did
Mm-hmm.
do. We had a good junior year, and I
Mm-hmm.
think we came up. I mean, obviously we came up short, but I think we kind of came up shorter than even we expected to that junior year. But
Mm-hmm.
our chemistry was there. I think
Mm-hmm.
individually players, a lot of people had got really good. Like I said, I think I had, if not my best high school year
Mm-hmm.
that year. And
Mm-hmm.
then when the whole Woodruff closed it down and we combined, then we kind of became like a powerhouse technically, especially on
Yeah.
paper, because all the big names that we had joined that roster.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like, if we had another year with that team, I'm not even worried about,
Now let's
and
yeah let's get into that because you were a part of that team that when like you said Woodruff had shut down and we combined schools essentially. Talk to me about what that's like because I mean, granted, us versus Woodruff wasn't as big of a rivalry between us and Manual. Like it wasn't the same, but there was still a rivalry there. Like there was still
right.
that same intensity because they're down the hill from us. So it's like you know what I'm saying. Like they're not that far. I mean, there was definitely tension on you know what I'm saying on both sides. So when that combination happens, like what's that adjustment like? Because I'm almost assuming it wasn't smooth sailing at first. Like I'm sure, like you said, after a while, you guys found your stride and clicked. Like, all right, we here together. We ain't got no choice. Let's make this work. But when it first happened, what was that like?
I mean, it's honestly your little like cliche movie when something like that happens, you know.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because most majority of us, like I said before, we all on the same travel team. So not only do we play with each other in the summer, we're friends.
Yeah.
But like you said, high school ball is different than AU. So I say when Woodruff closed and you got the Trey Dorsey, the Thailanders, the whoever like AJs and even like the people that didn't have a huge name like that come to Central, but like you represent Woodruff Warriors, and like y'all didn't have the history that Central had, but y'all building your own. You are good players, so to have to come now share that or throw that all away and team up with people that already got something and we build on, and on top of that we are rivals. Like you said, it's not as deep as Manual Central, but it's a rival. Like you said, it's still Peoria basketball against Peoria ball. So coming together, it was tough. It was really tough in the beginning just to coexist. For them to get used to a different coaching style. Well, I think was probably the hardest part for them. I can't speak on that because I was already there, used to it. So I'm pretty sure that was really, really rough for them. And it's just a different style of play. I know we all play together, know each other's game, but it's high school. It's more structured. There's not a lot of freelance like AU. And yeah, it was real tough. I mean, we got in our little bickerness amongst each other at times too. This ain't Woodruff, man. You ain't doing that here.
Yeah.
I don't care about no Central. I do that. You know how they go. So it was definitely tough in the beginning. And eventually, like you said, we hit our mark and we got to going. But it was definitely some growing pains.
Definitely. What do you think was the turning point for you guys where it was like, all right, look, like I said, we here now. You ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. What do you think was the thing, or maybe a series of things that finally kind of got everybody on the same page? Like, all right, like, look, we just gonna come together and just do this.
Honestly, for me personally, I think it was because majority, 80% of us, it was our senior year. It was next year. So we could sit there and bicker and Woodruff Central this and that, but there was no Woodruff to go back to, and even at Central, Central wasn't closing, but for the rest of it, there was no Central going back to the next year. It was done. That was it. Everybody was a senior, so you had one last dance to try to get it together.
That's a very good point. I never thought about it like that. That's a really strong point. So after senior year, what college did you end up actually going to? Because I couldn't remember the name of it.
I went to Triton College up in Chicago, River Grove, Illinois, suburb Chicago.
Okay, so was that was D2?
That's JUCO.
JUCO. Okay, so that's a JUCO. So now you go from senior year. Actually, well, let's go back a little bit. What do you think your biggest accomplishment in high school was? Like, what was something like for you that was like, I'm glad I did that, or I checked that off my list?
Making all area teams. I did that a couple times. I think I made that senior and junior year, and then my senior I made an all-state team.
Okay. Oh, that's dope.
So those were big accomplishments for me, just because that proved to me that I was good enough, if to be up there with the top of our state.
Which is a big deal because, like you said, there were so many hoopers in our state at that time that were at the top of their game as well. So if you can break through that mold and make that list, that's definitely a big thing. Now, you went to you go off to college. Now your senior year's done. You're going from being the man again, like I said, being the man at Central for essentially 3 years, because, like you said, sophomore year is kind of when a lot of the responsibility fell at your feet. So now you're starting over, going back from being relatively unknown to some people, not to all. But so then, again, the mentality, like, how does it switch? Because now you're on a bigger level, because college is a bigger level than high school, obviously. What's going through your mind at that time?
Well, I mean, just everything probably times two, because like you said, now it's even the game faster, the game more physicals. It's just everything's a lot faster. The talent's better. So, but I know when I first got to college, I went in there knowing that, okay, especially that I was at JUCO, I knew I wanted to get to the next level. I wanted to get to university, so
Mhm,
I knew I really wanted to perform well at JUCO.
mhm,
But
mhm.
at the same time, it's kind of like you said, it's kind of the same thought process as it was a
Yeah.
freshman in high school, but just it's just a little more in
Bigger.
depth because it's more, it's more the basketball's up better, the talent's
Mhm.
better, everything's better now, faster, it's more physical. So you trying to get to know yourself, trying to get to know your game, get used to actually playing. I remember my first college game actually, it was so fast I literally could not catch my breath. I remember I was
Mm,
and did not start the first game.
mhm,
I was behind another really good dude. He was the best player on our team at that time.
mhm, mhm,
I and behind him. And I remember when I got in it, I was so tired. First up
mhm,
the court's bigger.
mhm,
The game, like I said, the game faster. And I remember my coach was getting on me because he was like, I didn't recruit you here to be out there. You came here to score. And I'm like,
mm.
I, I need to catch my breath first. I can't even
Yeah,
get a
it's like,
shot
okay,
up.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So it took a while. It's just a big adjustment to get used to. It's different. I don't think people, especially a lot of ball players, women or men, they don't
Yeah,
understand that the difference
absolutely.
of coming from high school to college. If you go in D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, I mean, it's all the same. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I will let you know right now. It's all the same. I mean, talent wise, got better talents in different areas, but as
Right.
far as like the game itself, the physical, the
Mhm.
physicality of it, you're gonna have you're gonna have some of the same talent, but
Yeah.
it's the same. It's college
Interesting.
ball.
So what do you feel like, what adjustments do you feel like you had to make to your game in order for it to kind of click for you to make it make sense? Because like you said, you came into it, it was faster, it was more physical, so you're not the most intimidating person, or not intimidating, I guess, in that regime, but I guess like you're not the biggest, strongest, fastest anymore. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not jumping out the gym because everybody can jump out the gym in college.
Mhm.
So what adjustments do you feel like you had to make to like make it make sense for you?
So that was the time, honestly, where I felt like I knew I needed to kind of pick something like, okay, what type of player am I?
Mm,
As far
mm,
like in high school, I was already kind of, known as like the mid range guy. I did a lot of mid
right.
range, which that was my game. But I
Mm-hmm.
still like in my head, like I still was kind of like I don't really know who I am yet.
Yeah.
But in college, okay, I knew for a fact I had to up my ball handling. I'm 6'2", 6'2", 6'3" on a good day. So I knew I would be playing a lot of guard. I would definitely get to do my show my versatile, but I would definitely be playing a lot of guard. So I know I needed to get my ball handling up. I needed to get a lot quicker. Um, and I needed to have my jump shot consistent, and it needed to
Mm,
expand only mid range with the 3 point as well. So
got
I
you.
think that was a big one for me, was adding the 3 point game and getting my ball handling, honestly.
So okay, so that's interesting. I'm glad that you pointed that out because I feel like that's something. It reminds me kind of Giannis. You know how people are saying like he needs to add that jump shot, a more consistent jump shot to his game. So was that something that the coach maybe suggested to you, or was that something that you were like, okay, I see these are ways that I can be effective. Let me go ahead and start working on these and start implementing this into my game more often so I can have an effect on the game.
I'm not gonna lie, that was something me personally thought, like
Okay.
literally said. I said, now if I add this to my game, I think I can go take me to another level.
Right. So
So yeah.
using yeah, so like going to JUCO because I know for a lot of people, if they don't go straight D1 or straight D2, then JUCO is that stepping stone to get to that next level. So what was your preparation like trying to get to an actual university, being that you started with the JUCO?
Just I mean, trying to really stay disciplined, and
Mm-hmm.
I can, and now that I sit here, 30 years old, grown man, family, kids, and all that, I honestly sit here, and it's very hard. And I say this to any young hoopers that still, trying to get down that path, that still have years in high school to come, and about to go to college. Like it's really hard, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
was the main thing that like I told myself that I needed to do, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a struggle. It was hard. But self-discipline, and that goes as far as school, just everyday life, keep sticking to a routine, playing
Mm-hmm.
the game, playing basketball, just self-discipline. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the preparation going into JUCO, trying to, like you said, trying to get to a university.
So after JUCO, what was like your what was the next step after that? Like where did you go after doing the because you do 2 years at a JUCO, right?
Yep.
Right. So after
So
doing the 2 JUCO, what was like what happened next?
after Triton, I got a and that's why we were talking about trying to get to self discipline. But I ended
Mm-hmm.
up going to Ambrose University up in Davenport, Iowa, which it's a 4 year, it's NAIA.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great school, it's a Catholic school,
Mm-hmm.
really good school.
Mm-hmm.
The campus was great. If it, it was real. I compared it kind of to like Bradley styles because it was a little more, it was a little smaller, but it
Mm-hmm.
still gave you like campus vibes. But the one thing I will say about St. Ambrose that I really like, once you were like in the campus, like it had that middle. You know how campuses have like that middle part of it where it's like, okay, you in now, you closed
Mm-hmm.
in.
Yeah.
You didn't think of outside world. You are in this college campus. That's how that vibe it gave me.
Mm. Okay.
And then it came, it came with everything. We had the full gym. We had the big football teams and tailgates and the college bars and like so I got to experience that. So that's why I ended up going there. I went to St.
Mm-hmm.
Ambrose on a basketball scholarship to finish out my career.
Absolutely. So what was because so you went there for another 2 years, I'm assuming, right?
So
Or
I,
since you
I
already
went I played ball there for 2 years, but I went there for three. I
okay.
did another year. I did a fifth year.
Okay, got so you just okay, so you say you played ball for 2 and then you did another year just for like was that just school for like
Yep,
as far
just
as
schooling.
okay.
Yep.
So how would you say that your basketball career ended in as far as in that particular university?
I think okay. Overall, I think I had a great St. Ambrose career. I definitely think I
Okay.
did. My junior year, which would have been my first year there,
Hmm.
um, was really good. I don't think it took me long to really find my niche with the team.
Okay.
I think me and the coach already kind of had a full understanding right away, which made
Hmm.
that's why it's easy to go there.
Gotcha.
For those that don't know, I also got to play with Ty Tylen Dale at St.
Nice.
Ambrose. He actually took a red shirt, so then we became in the same year. So when I was a junior, it was technically his junior year too. So
Gotcha.
that was good. Then I got to play with another couple of guys that weren't from that I weren't used to playing with. They were from the Chicago area and they were really good. One was Nick Fraser. Like I
Hmm.
always tell people, he was literally one of the best players I've ever played with in high school. Any team I've ever played on, he was one of the best ones I ever
Hmm.
played with.
Dope.
So and I just think that my senior year got better and better. An
Mhm.
individual player, obviously, definitely wish we could have, won some championships, won a little more hardware. But I think I had a really good success there.
Mhm.
Made a little legacy there as well. So yeah,
Nice. So after okay, so you wrapped that potential that situation up. Now you've graduated college. What was the mind like? What did you want to do next after that? Like, did you ever want to go overseas? Did you have a chance to go overseas? Like, kind of what happened after you wrapped up at the university?
right. I'm glad you asked because it's funny because only the people really close to me know this part
Right.
of my. So when I left St. Ambrose, so I did, like I said, I did a fifth year. So that fifth year, I switched my major. So I had to do a fifth year to get the credits. Then I
Mhm.
actually became a grad assistant coach with St. Ambrose. And I was still obviously in basketball shape. I was still loving the game, didn't want to
Okay.
stop. So I got
Mhm.
invited to it was a top like 150, I believe, NAIA exposure
Mhm.
camp. And it was
Mhm.
basically a trial for overseas. It was in Las Vegas. It was a full weekend. It was actually the same weekend as the NBA Summer League that year when it was going on,
Mhm.
and it was real cool. I went down there for a weekend. I played real well. I came back. I actually got two offers to go play. One was in somewhere in Spain, and the other one was somewhere in Ukraine.
Mhm.
And at the time, I'm not gonna lie, they weren't huge deals, but I was very honored just to be able to say that I'm good enough to go play professional ball. I had a daughter at that time. She was, if not, I think she was about to be one,
Oh wow.
and so it was a very tough decision to
Mhm.
turn those down because I definitely think if I would have accepted one, I could have worked my way up onto bigger and higher leagues. But
Wow.
yeah, so once that, I got done with that, kind of dabbled with coaching for a little bit.
Mhm.
Took on after that, took on more of, the house dad
Mhm.
got my CDLs, started driving, was more in my kids' life day to day. And then so I'm still active in like all the little leagues that we have around here. I played in a
Gotcha.
couple, an hour, 45 minutes away. And it's funny because I actually gotten the itch to like, I want to play again, man. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so I've had people at the games that I know record these games at these leagues.
yeah.
And so I had one guy that I went to middle school with, and he recorded them for me. He made me a little mixtape. And I just reached out to an old coach of mine, the guy that's here about, Coach A. And this was 2 years ago. Yep. So that would have made me 28.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to him, Coach A, I'm 28. Obviously, I'm not getting any younger, but at the same time, I'm kind of like technically in my prime. I
Right.
haven't stopped playing. I will be honest. I
Mhm.
haven't like everyday thing, but it is still full because, full out playing. I
Mhm.
got some. So he told me to send them out. I got them. He sent them out. I got reached out by another team overseas from, how do you say it? Croatia?
Croatia, yeah, Croatia.
Croatia, yeah. I got,
Mhm.
and at the time it was like in the middle of their season, so they
Mm,
were they offered me to come
the
finish
season
this
out,
year
yeah.
and see how it would go to lead on to a following year,
Right,
full. And I
right.
got the contract and everything, and it just was. I went and talked to my dad, and at that time, and this was 2 years ago. So now my daughter, she's 9 now, so she's 7 now. We
Mhm.
got a house now, and everything's going. And I think my girlfriend's actually pregnant with my son. So that
Mhm.
was a big one, and it was just again, it was really hard,
Yeah.
but I think it was honestly a little easier for me to turn that one down. It was even a bigger honor to
Yeah.
know that I'm still good enough, like somebody still wants me.
Right.
Um,
So you still have that appeal, yeah.
yeah, but just throw this in there. I know I will say this: any hooper, when you do hang it up, when and I don't know how every basketball player, you being a hooper, Lana,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
when you say I'm technically done as far as like pursuing a basketball career. And I mean, you're
Absolutely.
still gonna play in leagues or for fun with the friends or whatever. But I'm talking about when
Absolutely.
you're done pursuing a career. I think that's when you kind of get more at peace. And I think
Mhm.
after the Las Vegas one after college,
Mhm.
I remember I was in a hotel room by myself. It was after like the because it was a full weekend. It was like a Thursday to like that Sunday. I remember like it was after like the second day of the showcase. I was in my hotel. I was taking a bath, and I remember just bawling. I was like was crying by myself,
Wow.
bawling, just thinking like, okay, this is possibly your
Yeah.
last time doing like playing basketball competitively, like literally with the
Mhm.
meaning, you know. And
Yeah.
and I think once I was able to accept that and not, and it's hard. It is hard, especially when that's
Yeah.
all you've known for your whole
Right.
life. It's so
Man. Yeah.
long. But once I was able to accept that, I think it was a little easier for me to turn down those offers. And
Mhm.
obviously, my daughter and my kids is my number one
Yeah.
priority in the world to
Sure.
me. So that with that, but yeah, just it was hard. But I think that was made it a little easier, just
Mhm.
accepting that I know I put it everything I had into it. I didn't
Mhm.
short glove for the game as a
Mhm.
like, and that's the biggest one right there. Not shorting
Yeah.
glove. Obviously, go back and think of things you could and wish you would have done better.
Right.
I don't
Right.
really. I will honestly say I don't. I haven't left any. I haven't left the game with technically any regrets. I got some things I wish I could fix or like tighten up, tune up, but technically
Right.
full regrets. I don't think I have any full regrets.
And I'm glad that you put that out there because that's a really interesting perspective. And I'm sure you're not the only person that has had to go through that as far as like making the decision, is it my family or is it, my career? And the fact that you had two times, you said no, my family's more important. Like that's a testament to who you are, not only just outside of you being a player, but just as a man, because I know that decision wasn't those decisions weren't easy for you.
Right.
Because you've been I mean you've been a top player for years at this point. Like, that's like you said, that's all you know. So the fact that you were able to have the wherewithal to be like, you know what, no, that there's something more important there. Like I have a greater purpose outside of just this is incredible to me, and I'm glad that you shared that. Now, beyond those things, in your present day, like what's going on with you now? Like what's kind of where are you at? What are you doing? And maybe what future plans you might have.
It's crazy because I've somehow seen cannot put a ball down. Peoria just actually recently started a semi-pro team here.
Okay.
Um, it's called the Wolves. We just had one of the first little tryouts a couple weeks ago. I went, I made the team. So I'm actually just trying to get back in a little more basketball shape, and honestly,
Hmm.
just for health purposes too. But just get back in shape for that.
Got you.
I'm still actively a CDL holder, truck
Hmm.
driving. I
Okay.
also do part-time serving at Weaver's Fresh Food with my girlfriend.
Nice.
So just kind of all over a little bit right now.
Hmm.
Future plans. I really would love to. I want to own my own restaurant. I
Oh, nice.
also,
Okay.
yeah, talk about that with a couple of friends that like to cook and our favorite
Okay.
food. So that's definitely some future plans and talks that I would love to do.
Hmm.
Um, I would definitely love to either coach or like have my own like basketball like academy type thing, where teams, workouts, stuff like that. Just anything to do with ball, it's I'm never gonna be I love basketball. I'm never gonna stop loving it.
Yeah.
So I would love
That's.
to do something with that. So basically I just kind of want I'm honestly like kind of wanting to dive more into the entrepreneurship. So
Hmm.
even with I work for companies, but eventually
Right.
I'm gaining my knowledge and all the info I can. So eventually I can start, try to do something on my own. So
Absolutely.
that's where we at right now. Yeah.
That's dope. Well, that's dope that you have those plans, like the entrepreneur stuff and just the basketball league. I think that would be dope because I don't think we could ever get enough basketball leagues because it's
Where
such it's such a global game, and I mean, people deserve to have opportunities. Like I was just talking to DJ Richardson, and we were talking about Gus Mack, and I'm like, it pains me that we don't have that anymore. Like the
it's
fact that it's
crazy.
not
It's crazy, yeah.
that
And
it's not
these
in the
kids
city.
now, they
They
have
don't even
no
know what that
idea.
is.
Yeah,
They
they don't
don't
even. I
even know
don't even
what that
think
is.
some of
Like
them may not even know what the Gus Macker is. Honestly, and
that
yeah, I
was
think we played in it every year.
oh
Every
my
year.
God, that was my favorite part of the summer because that
Where
city shut down for that weekend that we had their weekends that we had the Gus Macker. They shut the streets down. There was food vendors. I mean, there was so many just the ambiance of
it
it
was just a
all was
time. It was a
man.
time.
If
Yeah.
you weren't if you know, you know, if you don't, you don't. Like you had to be there to really experience it to understand it. And I know they tried to bring it back, but it just ain't the same. It
It
ain't
ain't
the
the
same.
same.
It
Yeah,
is
it's
not
not.
the same. Yeah, you gotta bring something like that back. Like if you could bring something like that back, I will literally fly from Cali back home just to be a
Well,
part of
we working on it. So we working on something. We gonna work on something because we
it.
definitely need something like that back, especially in Peoria for sure.
Absolutely. I would, like I said, I will come back to host it or whatever I need to do to be a part of it because that is something I feel like that the city needs because it was a highlight for us as I mean it was something to do because it ain't much to do other than to get in trouble honestly outside of
Right.
that.
Exactly.
And I mean,
Exactly.
it was something that was positive. So definitely, whoever's listening, or if we got to do it ourselves, even from where I'm at, I'm more than happy to be a part of it or to help because
Well, we gonna
that
definitely we gonna tap in to get something happen because, like you said, we need it, we want it. So yeah, we'll get something going.
yeah, we gotta get some kind of summer league. But I appreciate you, DY, for being on the show and being so transparent and being honest about your journey. I definitely think it's gonna help for like a lot of young hoopers coming behind you. And speaking of that, like if you could give advice to some young hoopers that are coming behind you and are kind of bit or going into the same things that you've gone through, what would it be?
Honestly, just say self discipline. That is the term for any hooper. I literally think anybody that wants a basketball career needs to get a dry erase board, chalkboard, whatever, and write self discipline and leave it there until you say I'm done playing basketball. But it's actually good for life. But when we
Mm-hmm,
talk about basketball specifically, like self
mm-hmm.
discipline, that goes as far as school, relationships, just anything, life decisions. It's all about being self disciplined. And once you have that, the earlier you have that, the better off your career will be because you would know you would make smarter decisions.
That's a very good piece of advice to give because, like you said, self discipline. Sorry, is a life skill. Even outside of just hooping itself, like you gotta have self discipline. God, I can't have that. No,
I know,
how
right?
can
It's
I
it's,
so
it's
hard?
tough saying it a couple times.
Yeah, I said it so much with this word, but yeah, self discipline. Just throughout life, you need that, and obviously with basketball, any sport that you play, honestly, you need that as well. So that's definitely a good piece of advice. Definitely, like I said, I appreciate you coming back on the show again. Definitely going to have you on again because I enjoy your insight and the way that you think and break things down. So, the NBA season is coming up, so we definitely Can we get an official D White will be back before the NBA season?
All day. Have me. I'm ready whenever you are. I'm definitely love. We definitely need to have another one to talk about that before we get jumping off. Before we can have some stories, get some narratives going. I'm ready.
Yes, and I'm gonna hit you because I need there's a couple people that I know that you're in contact with that I need to be on the show. I need to get their perspective on certain things. So we gonna lock in definitely, but I know you got stuff to do, so I'm gonna let you go. But D White, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, man. And we out this thing.
All right, appreciate it for having me. Thank you.
For sure, for sure.